We now call this open student senate meeting on April 20th to order. Secretary Federini, please call the roll.
Catherine Thompson. Here. Stephanie Walker. Here. Anthony Wagner. Here. Amelia Smith. Here. Annabelle Walker. Here. Chris Biancanella.
Here.
Steph Buck. Here. Harry Combs.
Here.
Kelly McGrath. Ben Richardson. Ashley Saboden. Here. Ryan Williams.
Here.
Frank Arrigo. Taylor Burry. Here. Bethany Holt. Aaron Meacham. Eric Miller. Jackie Turek.
Here.
Lauren Perry.
Here.
Taylor Beck.
Here.
Kevin Bilecki.
Here.
Eden Eglin.
Here.
Brooke Lucic.
Here.
Kat Brown.
Here.
Nika Papadis.
Here.
Kylie Davis.
Here.
Chet Dico.
Here.
Brianna Egan.
Here.
Kaylin Homestetter.
Here.
Michael Mantino.
Here.
Maxine Peskins. 26 PCG.
Here.
ACM.
Here.
Active Minds.
Here.
Allies.
Here.
APO.
Here.
Amnesty International.
Here.
Autism Speaks. AAUW.
Here.
Biosphere. Here. Black Student Union.
Here.
Bomb Squad. Cheers.
Here.
China Culture Club. Circolo Italiano.
Here.
Civil War Club.
Here.
Class of 2015,
Here.
2016, 2017,
Here.
2018.
Here.
Classics Club.
Here.
College Democrats.
Here.
College Republicans. Colleges Against Cancer.
Here.
Cooking Club.
Here.
Dance Ensemble.
Here.
Democracy Matters.
Here.
DCF.
Here.
Drop the Octave.
Here.
Enactus. Film Society.
Here.
Four Scores.
Here.
Free the Slaves. Friend or Foe. Game Club.
Here.
GASA. Gettysburg TV.
Here.
Gettysburg College Debate Society.
Here.
GECCO.
Here.
German Club. Gettysburg Anti-Capitalist Collective. Gettysburg Student Musical Theater.
Here.
Gospel Choir.
Here.
Habitat for Humanity. Interfaith Council.
Here.
International Affairs.
Here.
International Club. Jam Club. Japan Club.
Here.
Jazz Appreciation Society.
Here.
LASA.
Here.
Law and Justice Society. Lutheran Student Movement. Mock Trial.
Here.
Model Arab League.
Here.
Alan Nightingale.
Here.
Photography Club. Free Health.
Here.
Free Vet.
Here.
Rotaract.
Here.
Sangha.
Here.
SASA.
Here.
Shots in the Dark.
Here.
Ski and Snowboarding Club.
Here.
Skeptical Chemists. Smartwood Securities. STEMinists.
Here.
Society of Physics Students.
Here.
Student Alumni Association.
Here.
Students for Life.
Here.
Swing Club.
Here.
TEDx. Upscale.
Here.
Young Americans for Liberty. Duop Club. Motion to approve last week's minutes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Minutes carried. Hi everyone. Hope you have a good Monday. I have no announcements. Also have no announcements.
I do have a brief announcement. Just want to give one last update on the budget. We started off from the academic year with $110,000. We have spent $78,000 of that, and we have left, as of today, about $32,496 left in the flex account. So we are well within our budget. We won't go into the rollover, which is very good. I did want to thank all the committee members who made this year so successful. Chet, Alex, and Michael. Thank you for your service. And we have one club that I heard.
Thanks for a great year and 2 years, you guys. That's all. No more emails from me.
Alright, so the only announcement I have for you guys is to RSVP to the Senate Celebration Awards ceremony that we're going to be having April 30th. So that's just an award ceremony recognizing all the clubs and all their outstanding work that they did throughout this year. So we're going to need 2 exec members from each club to be present at this award ceremony. And that's everything. Thanks for a great year. I was so excited about all the new clubs and organizations that came for Senate recognition this year. So thank you.
Being that there is no old business, we'll move right into new business with a budget request from Active Minds.
Hi, so I'm Brianna Boyle. I'm one of the co-treasurers for Active Minds. For those of you who don't know what Active Minds is, we're a nationwide organization committed to changing the conversation about mental health. Mental health is not just for people with mental illness, it's for everyone. And so one of the events we're trying to host on campus is a Stress Less Week. Obviously the week before finals is a very stressful time for students. So some of the events we're trying to do is the biggest amount of money on this is for massages. So what we're trying to do is host massages for 2 hours on 2 nights, a Thursday and a Wednesday. And the total cost is $120 per hour, and then it's another $10 for gratuity for the masseuse to perform. So that's our biggest cost on here. The next biggest cost is flyers, which we're asking $52.50. We got that quote from Staples, like exactly like how many copies we need. As you can see, we broke it down. We want 125 flyers at the cost of 42 cents per flyer equals $52.50. Just to kind of get the word out, what activities we're hosting. I know on Wednesday we're hosting a comedy night featuring Shots in the Dark. One of our themes is to laugh more. Then on Thursday we're going to be hosting the massage night, hopefully in the library. I'm pending college life's approval. Then on Friday I know there's dog days and there's some sort of swim night, late night swim night, hosted by one of the other clubs on campus. And then so the other thing that we're asking for is a little bit of money to do snacks for the Shots in the Dark performance, like just chips, soda, cookies, cups, napkins, your typical sort of thing. And then the last thing we're asking money for is chalk, kind of, chalking the sidewalks. I'm sure you all have noticed that clubs do that. Just try to like give inspirational messages like during this really stressful time. Any questions?
You said for the massages, you're pending a request to put it in the library.
Yes.
If that's rejected, where would you put it?
We would probably put it in the cap. I mean cup. Sorry. Yes.
Did you talk to like our printing office here on campus if you could get a cheaper price from them versus Staples?
I know we didn't ask them necessarily because their hours are pretty limited, but like that is pretty reasonable for color printing. And I'm also going to not just do flyers, but also like informational pamphlets to the table in the library, like kind of information about coping mechanisms, other support that they can reach. Oh, and on that note, we did ask the Student Life of Activities for any money that they would have in their budget. They've exhausted all their sources. Same thing with CAB. We asked them for some funding, and they didn't have anything. Any other questions?
If there are no other questions, do you have any motions? Jackie?
Motion to approve the active minds budget for $623.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Congratulations.
I would like to motion to enter a transition meeting.
Ms. Parliamentarian is former president.
Yes, Mr. President, under the water rules of order and Constitution of the Student Senate of Gettysburg College, we currently conform to conduct business of this body.
Ms. Vice President, your responsibilities entail running as well as sole oversight and discretion over the elections of the Gettysburg College Student Senate. I ask you to officially certify the results of the spring 2015 elections.
Mr. President, on this day, April 20th, 2015, I officially certify the results of the spring 2015 elections.
Thank you, Ms. Vice President, for your services in providing a fair election. Acting as officiant of the ceremony, I call Jeff Foster and Jean Ramsey to install those elected to positions of the Student Senate and class officer seats.
Ms. Vice President, may you please present those to install as student senators and class officers?
Jeff Foster, Dean Ramsey, and President Thompson. The following persons have been elected to serve in their respective positions and have met the mandatory requirements necessary to hold office in the Gettysburg College Student Senate. I ask the following people to please stand as their names and offices are read. For the new Senate, the President is Taylor Burry. Vice President, Frank Arrigo. Secretary, Brooke Butchick. Treasurer, Michael Mancino. Class of 2016 officers. President, Natalie Young and Frank Arrigo. Vice President, Lauren Perry. Treasurer, Kevin Hartman. Secretary, Sam Evangelista. Class of 2017 officers. President, Brooke Butchick. Vice President, Nico Kupats. Secretary, Taylor Beck. senators for the fall semester. Hanyan Zhao, Taylor Beck, Katarina Crone, Amelia Smith, Lynn Hatcher, Nico Pattis, and Kevin Blood. For the class of 2017, senators for the spring semester. Eden Edwin, Shay Walensky, Annabelle Waplinger, Ember Parker, Lynn Hatcher, Mika Putzis, and Anthony Wagner. For the class of 2018 officers, President Michael Mancino, Vice President Angelia Cruz Murdoch, Treasurer Kate Homestead, Secretary Alex Egglesman. For class of 2018 senators, Angelia Cruz Murdoch, Elira Parker, Alex Egglesman, Chuck Depot, Claire Quinn, Caitlin Homestead, and Jeffrey Love.
Okay. You have all been elected to positions of leadership and trust in the Gettysburg College community. You are to see that the words and deeds of the Student Senate reflect the mission of this institution. Please join together with all members of the community to see that the mission and work of Senate is done in peace for the good of the students and for the greater community in the academic world. You are to be diligent in your specific area of service so that all members of this body are given a model of accountability and teamwork. You are to be examples of leadership and to promote the highest level of excellence possible. So please repeat after me. I will carry out my duties to the best of my abilities and with the best interest of our college community in mind. I will respect my office and this Senate. I will represent the student body in all matters where I'm called upon. I will serve in the best interests of the student body and uphold the responsibilities inherent to our right of democratic self-government. We can repeat that again. Let's see, where was that? I will serve in the best interest of the entire student body, you said that already, and uphold the responsibilities inherent in our right to democratic self-government. Excellent. Congratulations. And for the rest of you, please repeat after me. I will support these, my elected leaders, and share in the mutual work that has been given to us all. Congratulations, everyone.
Thank you all for a great year.
I think they daydream the next few years.
Yeah, I'll sit here.
And now call this open Student Senate, April 20th, meeting to order. Secretary Buchek, please call the roll.
Taylor Burry,
Here.
Frank Rigo, Michael Mancino, Taylor Beck, here, Kevin Blackie, Lynn Hatcher, Kat Crone,
Here.
Nico Putzis, Nico Smith,
Sorry, my bad,
Pyongyang Joe, Kylie Davis, Chuck Diga, Alex Egglesman,
Here.
Angelia Cruz Murdoch, Jeffrey Law,
Here.
Elira Parker, here, Claire Quinn,
Here.
Great. Hi guys, I'm excited to be your new president, and we have a really good exec board coming, so I'm excited for the next year as well. This meeting Pubs Liaison and the Parliamentarian, and we're also going to hear from Dean Ramsey and the college or Student Life Committee. So.
No report.
Okay, and being that there's no old business, we'll move right into new business. I motion to appoint Lauren Perry to the position of parliamentarian. And I appoint Kylie Davis to the position of Pubs Liaison. And now I'd like to call Dean Ramsey and Wayne Taylor up to present the student life committee and the point
Thank
system.
you, Taylor. Well, before we launch into our discussion, I just want to take a moment to congratulate the outgoing officers of Student Senate and to thank all of you for a great year. I know we're not quite at the end, but we're kind of closing out the officers from last year. So I see Steph. Where did everyone else go? Anthony. Yes, and where is our ex-president, our former president, Catherine? All right, these people deserve to stand up, and let's give them a round of applause. It's been really fun, and welcome to next year's group. This is your break-in session, so we're getting ready to work with you, and I hope you're excited. We're excited. We were going to take just a few minutes. We have members of the Student Life Committee of the college with us here today. So Professor McKinley Melton, Dwayne Taylor, Abby Connor, and Jeff Foster and myself are all members, and Catherine was a member. And I guess you still are. I don't need to talk about you in the past tense.
I am alive.
You are. So the Student Life Committee of the college is a group of faculty, administrators, and students, equal numbers of faculty, students, and administrators. Jackie was on the committee for a long time. That looks at policies over governing the lives of students outside the classroom. And one of the things we've been talking about off and on, particularly this semester, has been hard alcohol and the point system, and and also marijuana and the point system. So this is a really fun committee. You can see that we have some interesting conversations, and we wanted to get some input from all of you on some of the questions we're thinking about. So one of the things in particular that I'll lay out a couple things for you. One is that the college is still very concerned about hard alcohol, even though some of the issues connected with like transports are down this year, which is a very positive thing. But whenever anything really bad happens on campus, whether it's someone is transported, someone blacks out, whether there is a sexual assault, whether there is a fight, a lot of the time it has to do, if you trace it back, hard alcohol was involved at some point during the evening for one or more students who've been involved in that incident. And that's why we're concerned about the use of, really, of course, the abuse of hard alcohol. And that can take place, as you all probably know, in two forms. One is what we would consider to be pre-gaming, shots before going out. And the other is juice served at student events. And so we know that we can't prevent the use of hard alcohol. We're not, we know that we can't eradicate it, but we would like to discourage the use of hard alcohol as much as possible on campus, particularly for students who are underage, really because of the safety considerations. And so one of the things we can do is, in order to discourage use, is to increase the points associated with consumption of hard alcohol. Right now, hard alcohol, now one of the things we do with points is we try to convey our values, what's important, what we are most concerned about through the point system. So right now, is that consumption of hard alcohol has twice as many points as consumption of beer or wine. It's 2 points for beer and wine consumption and 4 points for consumption of hard alcohol. So one of the proposals on the table is to actually increase that to 5 points. And so we want to get some thoughts from you about that. We're also interested in any other ideas you might have to help us address the issue of hard alcohol on campus. So that's one issue. The other issue we'd be interested in hearing from you about has to do with marijuana. Marijuana currently is, what, in terms of points? 4 points. So it's the equivalent of hard alcohol consumption. And some students make the argument that marijuana is illegal for everyone in Pennsylvania all the time, compared to hard alcohol, which is only illegal for some. So that's one argument. And then, so some people say, well, it should be more severely treated than alcohol. And other people make the argument that marijuana is less harmful to students, so it should have less points, fewer points associated with it. So, do anyone ask, or any other member of SLC, do you all have anything to add? I'm just going to kind of open the floor and ask for comments and questions and discussion and your thoughts about it. But anyone else want to say anything before we do that?
No, I think that captured the conversation well, and I just want to add that the irony is not lost. We're talking about marijuana on 420. Worked out well.
Anyone else?
Well, I've just, again, you've already addressed it, but I think that at the heart of this is really less a concern about policing student, consumption of things that probably shouldn't be consuming and whatever. But it's really more so an issue around safety, right? I really just want to emphasize that the whole reason we're even revisiting this is because this is not just about students who are, kind of making a cocktail in their room, but there are a number of destructive and dangerous behaviors, health dangers, as Dean Ramsey mentioned. A lot of this is very, very intricately tied to sexual assault. And there are just a number of larger issues. So as we launch into this conversation, I just want to be clear that we're really concerned about health and safety and the wellness of the campus, less than we are concerned about, reliving the 1920s prohibition.
Jeff?
Yeah, and I think the thing to concentrate on is what we're looking at is trying to combat a culture that Gettysburg has adopted, where I think a lot of students are aware of the problem but don't see it as a problem. And I think what we just talked about is what it's linked to, because it's a problem, and we're coming to you guys because we're hoping you have some ideas how we can work on it.
Sure, go ahead.
I don't know how the point system works, but what happens when someone does something that they're not supposed to after they've consumed this thing that we're trying to regulate? So what happens, what's the punishment for getting into a fight? What's the punishment for that kind of thing? Because maybe if those kind of restrictions are higher, if you know the penalty for getting into a fight, if you know the penalty for causing harm to someone else or yourself, maybe people will be more conscious of the decisions that they make before they decide to do something like
that's
that.
a good point. The point system is applicable to drugs and alcohol alone. Okay, so everything else is really adjudicated on the basis of the circumstances. So there isn't right now we don't have a way of saying if there's a fight, for example, this will be the automatic response. And that's really what the point system was designed to do, was to create that kind of predictability and consistency across the board. We don't have that for other sanctions. But I think that students probably recognize that, if you're found with a beer walking down the hall, that's one thing. If you are so drunk and that you get into a fight and someone's injured, of course that's something else altogether. And I think students generally understand that, even if they can't predict exactly what the consequences are likely to be. You had a point. Question?
It seems like the student committee is just trying to nip the whole problem in the bud. But I think that the problem with hard alcohol tends to arise from the fact that students are scared of getting caught with alcohol. And hard alcohol is a lot easier to hide. You can have, you know, a big bottle of it in your room that can last for a long time versus a case of beer, which you have to keep replenishing and you have to dispose of beer cans somehow. It's a lot easier to get caught. You have to spend less time drinking hard alcohol, so it makes it easier to get away with it. And I don't think that increasing the penalty would solve that problem. I think it would actually cause people to drink more faster so they would get caught.
Okay. Good comment, good concern. Go ahead.
Oh, I agree, Stalfa. I think that punishing the students more is pushing it even more underground. The point of the point system is to help the safety of the students. It's drinking underground is what hurts us, especially the freshman class. So I think it's kind of doing the opposite of your goal, your end goal.
So, if that's true, well, let me come back to this. I see several hands back here, but while we're talking with them, think about what would work. If that doesn't work, then what might? I'm going to go to these folks and I'll come back. Okay? Yes, sir.
Well, the whole point of college is to teach students responsibility. So increasing the district points, like what I want to say, wouldn't do anything. In fact, even if you make it even more risky, people are still going to do it no matter what. I think what you should concentrate on, like we're doing right now, is in terms of informing students about all the risks and all the aspects that come out of it, because it's, at the end of the day, it's students' responsibility on what they do, and if they decide to do it, then that's just their choice. And they know exactly what they're doing. So I think you should focus more on informing people about alcohol or drugs and whatnot, and instead of trying to make it more punishable, because I don't think that would do it.
Okay.
First point, I think if the main goal is safety, I don't know why we're giving so many points to marijuana and none for cigarettes. But other points. I think in terms of hard alcohol, it would be a better use of time to focus on like smart consumption, like what exactly constitutes a drink. Don't just pour it in a cup, use a shot glass. I think it's like stuff like that, like what is a drink, how much can you have, counting. That's me.
Okay. Well, you bring up a good point, which is that there is there's never just one issue in play when you're talking about alcohol and drugs, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking about safety issues, you're talking about legality, you're talking about impact on the community as a whole, one person's impact on other people. So you're not, obviously your point about marijuana and hard alcohol are, well, of course, marijuana is illegal for everyone in Pennsylvania and likely to remain so for a very long time. Those of you who are from Pennsylvania, it's not exactly Colorado. You're not Colorado. And hard alcohol for over 21 is legal. So, yes. And you had a point in that. You go first in the check shirt.
If the point of the point system is to consider safety, I have a slight problem with the fact that beer is only 2 points, whereas hard alcohol can be more points. Somebody could crush 10 beers and be very, very drunk and unsafe and in an unhealthy position with the alcohol, and they would receive 2 points, whereas somebody who is taking 1 shot of hard alcohol would receive 4 points. I fail to see. I think that the point system making hard alcohol worth more is making hasty generalizations that anytime somebody consumes hard alcohol, they are pounding back 10 shots and getting themselves into an unsafe situation.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So it's really about the abuse of alcohol, right? And, abusing hard alcohol is more problematic. As someone said a few minutes ago, you certainly get drunk faster with hard alcohol than with beer or wine. So, I think the college, in terms of our implementation, we're not trying to track down anybody, and we're certainly not trying to track down someone who is like you said, had one beer or one shot. That's really not the issue. The issue is people who abuse alcohol, and the abuse of hard alcohol is more problematic from what we see than the abuse of beer or wine. So you had a point you wanted, and I'll come back around.
Okay, yeah, it's unrelated to that, but I was just wondering if we are focusing on the safety of the students and not just trying to eradicate the consumption of alcohol, if alcohol is factored into things like sexual assault or regular assault, is that are the punishments for those crimes more severe with the use of alcohol? Because I know those probably don't get a good point system, but I'm just wondering if instead of punishing people for using alcohol, maybe the punishment should be based on misusing alcohol by committing crimes after using alcohol. I'm just not sure if using alcohol itself is necessarily the problem. I think it's people who do bad things after they use alcohol.
Well, sometimes what we find is as you suggest, the person who's, let's say, perpetrating the assault may have consumed hard alcohol. It's also possible that the victim has consumed hard alcohol, and that, in a sense, that contributes to the situation at times, not always, but at times. So, who hasn't spoken? Jackie, and then we'll go back around for a second. Go ahead.
So the concern I have with alcohol points, I already think there's an issue that it kind of pushes people that it's okay to drink extra rooms, and they're safe for doing that, like they're taking a monitor of that on their own in their room. I think that's an issue, number one, because if you're talking about beer versus, I think that kind of leads to some of the other things possibly that we're trying to avoid, number one. And number two, I think a suggestion for how to improve it maybe is I think what we're talking about is trying to make it a learning experience and a chance to kind of self-monitor yourself. But if you get points the first time, it's at the 4 points. But then if you are caught a second time or things like that, that's when point values increase no matter what the offense is, maybe something like that. So we have a warning that's at a lower amount. But then that'll kind of weed out people that are potentially abusing alcohol and being held accountable.
So, Steph?
I don't know if this has ever been considered, but has it ever been a thing that rather than getting points depending on what you're drinking, it's what your BAC is? So like the bracket would indicate a certain number.
Did you all hear what she said? We've thought about that.
I think that could be really effective because it deters people from mass consumption medications.
Jeff, you have some insight on that, don't you? BAC can be kind of unreliable.
Yeah, that is something we've talked about. Getting BACs is something, depending on the circumstances and who the individual is, when they drank last, and there are protocol we can follow. It can be tricky, and it can be unreliable. We've talked to other institutions that have looked at that, and tried that. It was very, very challenging to actually implement. But I mean, your point is that it's a way to really dial in on the actual problem. It's how much alcohol a person has in their system. There are some complications with that. The committee, I think you talked about that briefly as well. It's a good model.
You, and then you in the purple?
Maybe having ways on probably things that are social events or ways for kids to stay safe or having food and cocktails, especially for first years or ways that they can just simple stuff that they can use to help keep it under control, I guess. Because I mean, if health is one real issue.
Yeah, just to build on that, some students have talked about this kind of Friday night, Saturday night window of time between, okay, I'm done studying and it's not time to go out yet. And that is the pre-gaming time slot. And then sometimes you get to an event and there's hard alcohol as well. So can be the double, the combination of both of those.
Yeah, I agree with most people's points, and I like Steph's a lot too on the BAC. And I think the main problem with increasing hard alcohol to 5 points is basically like saying, hypothetically, you could get caught drinking 2 cocktails on 2 different occurrences and get kicked out of school, which I don't really think it warrants that.
Yes, Yes, that would be one of the implications, yeah, it would be, yeah. Yeah, well, yeah, that's the question.
So,
Go ahead.
2 points. One, I also think, like, going off of Steph's point, that we need to look at, like, more like how much people are drinking instead of what they're drinking, because having, like, one cocktail and playing Edward 40 Hands are two very different things, but they shouldn't be like saying Edward 40 Hands is more acceptable than 2 shots, because, well, it's not. And my other point is, like, I think, like, we could always use more education, but I also think we have enough education, at least in my opinion, because we had to do the alcohol review, and, like, when people ask me about what my orientation experience was like, I tell them honestly, like, I felt like it was a lot of, you know, drink responsibly, don't rape people, and don't do drugs. While, like, other people are kind of doing, like, getting to know you and trying to, like, break world records, we were kind of getting talked to during our orientation. So I feel like some, maybe a little bit more, but not too much more, because we'd spend 4 days basically living in alcohol EDU world, besides actually doing it.
Okay, fair enough. Somebody else? Yes.
Probably most of what I'm about to say was already covered from going around, but yeah, from like a freshman standpoint, I do think the concern would be bumping it up to 5 is that, yeah, if you get caught with like 2 mixed drinks months, you're about to get kicked out of school, and I think that's, and I mean, because I think the point system is something really good to have, but I'm scared that what's going to happen, if that was to happen, is that it's not going to make people stop. For some people who are really scared, it is going to help them to like not drink anymore. But other people, I'm scared that some people who still really want to drink are going to go even more underground, and I feel like that could end up with even more issues than we want. And also going along to what Stephanie said earlier, I do think that like somehow looking at how much alcohol have you consumed, because someone can go out and have 10, even though we don't see it a lot, someone could go out and have like 10 beers and be totally trashed, and one person could have 1 shot, but the one person who has 1 shot is about to get in a lot more trouble than the person who's completely wasted. So I just feel like there's somehow.
Well, just keep in mind, for the purposes of this discussion, again, the thing that, well, you know, we're all talking about getting in trouble. The thing that gets people in trouble is the behavior that they attract, the attention they attract to themselves. So if someone is drinking anything quietly and, you know, is not attracting attention, not causing a disturbance, they're not likely to get caught. And actually, that's okay. It's the people who are, the people we're focusing on are the people who, through their behavior, draw attention to themselves. So who clearly have kind of gone over beyond the pale of what is safe for them to consume. So why don't we go back around? Greg, we haven't heard from you yet.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. To like kind of like this state kind of getting in trouble idea, and I think a way to reform that is, I remember DPS who talked to the freshman halls on occasion about safety and things like that. And Officer Pierce does a great job of being very engaging. Gets to know every single student in the hall that he has, but I feel that the entire department doesn't follow suit with that. So maybe having more of an open dialogue with students can help build that trust, so students don't feel like they have to hide in their rooms and
Okay. The challenge for us as a college is that, you know, by law, we are supposed to be we're accountable to the laws of Pennsylvania. Now that doesn't mean they come in here and they're like, okay, what have you done lately for the laws of Pennsylvania? But it's not okay for us to just ignore those laws either. And so that's the bind that the college is in. There's no question about it. So, back around, Nico.
How does it determine what the student has? If there's no intention of it, let's say that they caught from a fraternity or something like that, how is it determined different than
I'll ask Dwayne and Jeff for their thoughts.
like the interview process?
How is it? Yeah. Sometimes you know, sometimes you don't, right? So someone is just drunk. It's unknown how they become drunk, which is different than there's a room with shot glasses and Jack Daniels, and so there's some discretion involved.
So I'm just saying, like, you know, let's say students have a lot more beer and wine and have hard alcohol that night, but they're still doing that explicit behavior. It's distributed more than beer and wine. You know, it's kind of a sticky situation.
And I think it's also good to note too, we talked around education quite a bit, is regardless of the type of drinking, the type of alcohol you're drinking, there's these educational pieces that come along with that. It's the point thing that is the difference. And so it's not like, oh, we don't educate around beer and alcohol, it's just beer and alcohol, or beer and wine. So.
And if they're refusing to comply in those situations, which sometimes we see that behavior, there are additional points for that, no matter what alcohol they consume. Doesn't matter if it's beer or wine.
Eric, what about associating like different, I don't want to say punishments, not the right word, but punishments, like that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, with points, you get your fine, but what about like if you work hard, like harder, like you get to do 10 hours of community service, like something tangible that they're turning a bad incident, something good to the community. Like, I mean, like when you look at the point system, is it's like, yeah, you get the 4, you get that.
Yeah.
Oh, you have points type of thing, but like on a Saturday morning, you have to do 5 hours of community service, you know, trash on the battlefield. Like you're gonna think about your actions probably a little bit more when you're out there. You have to do that twice.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Sometimes the administration of things like that can be challenging, like the accountability part of it, and sort of sending, what message does it send to send a student into the community and to say, well, I'm only here because I got caught drinking. I don't know, but it's worth considering. We do some of that with working the points off. So there's the point reduction system, and there is some in the community, or at least college service. I'm looking at Brian and Abby, you know.
Yeah, there's the educational components, and then there's the opportunity for a student to design their own point forgiveness opportunities, and in which case community service can be a part of that if they chose to.
Sure, go ahead.
So I don't know who it was that mentioned earlier, but having the first offense be less points than say other offenses.
Yeah.
And then the comment about how if you're not behaving properly, being very rude to the DPS officers, et cetera, that becomes additional points. Why isn't good behavior taken into account? And kids that, like, when DPS comes in, they're not being rude, or they're not necessarily, like, excessively intoxicated, like they mentioned earlier, only had, like, 1 or 2 beers, 1 or 2 shots. Like, I understand that, like, it's overall, like, the college's policy is that alcohol consumption is not a good thing, but kids that are perhaps being responsible and also being very polite and cooperating, why isn't that taken into account?
Well, I think by sanctioning the negative behavior, it is in effect taken into account. I mean, you're still addressing the possession of alcohol or consumption of alcohol. But I think what was mentioned over here was that if there's an additional non-cooperation, rudeness, that kind of thing, that's additional. So by not having that, I think in a way that's getting to your point. So students are being rewarded for cooperation because they're not being penalized for being non-compliant. Abby, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also another problem that there is within the point system, is that people see 2 points. If it's 2 points, it's nothing to them. And within the concept of that, if they're being, they're being good, they're being courteous, whatever, they're only getting 2 points for something that inherently is something we haven't mentioned as much. It is something that is illegal. Their consumption is illegal, and they're getting 2 points for that. And if they aren't in a situation where they are documented for that again in 2 semesters, they won't have any points. So I think they are being rewarded, I guess, for their
What I meant
documentation.
is perhaps the kid gets caught with hard alcohol and they're still not being rewarded for good behavior. I mean, I was just curious why it's just like a blanket kind of offense.
Well, the idea originally was to take away this kind of like the unpredictability and to ensure consistency for the event. That was the goal behind the point system at its inception, which is now about 9 years ago. And students so it's a trade-off. I guess that would be you're trading off one good thing for another good thing. Consistency is good, and rewarding good behavior is also good, but they don't seem to line up perfectly in the points system world. So, yeah, we can think about that. Go ahead.
All right. This might seem a little. I know this is probably not going to happen. But I find the point system to be pretty useless.
Okay.
It doesn't. clearly not stopping any of the more more dangerous or big issues with alcohol. And even if we were to make it make punishments more points, that still won't affect anything. I don't find the point system to do anything basically. So I think you should, if we're going to keep the point system, I think what you should do is try to foster an atmosphere where, we'll call it a campus atmosphere where drinking to a certain point would be okay, but past that point would be punishable. So say for example, if someone's just caught drinking like a beer or something like that, and they aren't like really drunk, they shouldn't get punished versus someone who's really out of their mind drunk. It's kind of like that level where if you want students to drink safely, you have to foster an atmosphere where you know where's the safe spot to drink. Is anything above that is not, you shouldn't go that far. I feel like if you give students more leeway, like if you give them more space, then they would be more responsible. That's just my opinion.
Okay. I wish that were true. I'm not sure that it's true. And I'd love to know how to do that. So, you know, as you said, how to create a culture where students kind of are, you know, monitoring their own consumption and saying to one another, you know, you've had enough, or this is, you know, come on, we don't really want to get this drunk, or you know, how do we do that? That would be great. We wouldn't need the point system, you're right, or anything else. So I'm going to go back in the back and then work my way up, okay? Go ahead.
I have to agree with that, actually, because I think the point system is useless in the sense that at least a lot of people I know that have gotten points haven't gotten them because they've done something stupid while drunk. It's just literally they've been in the wrong place at the wrong time, and some of them haven't even drank that much. So I feel like the point system is useless in regulating people's drinking, because if that person wants to drink again at another party, they will. And it's not going to stop them. I know it's illegal, but this campus isn't going to stop drinking. So I feel like what it needs to do is regulate the areas and those people are drinking heavily and where things like sexual assault are happening. I feel like they need to focus on environments versus people themselves.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
While we're on the topic of sexual assault, you guys were talking about how alcohol can contribute to sexual assault. And for me, that is kind of it's a problematic statement for part of it. I mean, obviously, when somebody is drinking, they're not in the right state of mind, so they may be more likely to commit sexual assault. But also, it kind of implies that somebody who is under the influence of alcohol is more likely to be sexually assaulted. And that seems like victim blaming to me. It seems very similar to that woman was dressed provocatively, so therefore, that contributed to the reason that she was raped. And I think that kind of fosters the idea, oh, she was drunk and she got raped, so let's get rid of that thing.
I think we have to make a distinction between blaming and explaining some certain circumstances that contribute to people making or putting themselves in a situation where they're more likely to be victimized. And I know that's a fine line, but I think that that's not blaming the victim. That's explaining sometimes what contributes. I don't see it as, I mean, I know people do, but point taken, I mean, I know what you're saying.
But using the same example of dressing provocatively.
I didn't use that example.
No, but I did.
And I would not use that example. No, I don't think they're equivalent, really. Go ahead.
I'm switching to food. I agree with someone's comment. I agree that this campus is not going to stop drinking. Like, it's going to happen. But we are a very, like, we love our food here. I really think that, like, increasing that is going to be a huge change in culture, like Chuck was saying. Like, getting more students, especially first years, like, Servo closes at 7:30, and they go out at 12. That's a huge gap. Yes, they can go to Bullet, but that's declining dollars. I mean, I'm a senior, but thinking back to freshman year, those go quick. Pizza House, it's still money out of your pocket. I know it's kind of expensive, but maybe giving the residents like extra money to have like cupcakes in the common room could help even. I'm in a sorority, and it's really helpful when we go into fraternity parties. There's that big thing of snack mix. It goes really fast. It's always there. Girls run to it as soon as they get in there because it's delicious. But it's really helpful. I think that the food thing is a huge thing. Harry's doing a really good job with the Spring Fest soft pretzels, and that was really successful last year. It may be an expensive solution, but it's definitely a cultural thing. Midnight Mags is always a hit. It's just something to think about.
Did I promise? I'm conscious of time, Taylor. I don't want to abuse your. It's 10 of 8.
So maybe 2 more questions?
Okay. 2? Is that what you said? 1 or 2? I promise. Brooke, no, I'm sorry.
Come on. Yeah, I think the focus needs to be more on not what the punishment should be for drinking, but how we're gonna stop this, not stop it after someone who's already drunk. For instance, the food. I was gonna bring that up. It's a great idea. I think that should be a really big focus for you guys. And the second would be I know Frankie, Sam, and Bethany and I would talk to Jeremiah about this idea. Maybe, and I don't want to open the Pandora box here, but including the freshman in Greek life, I feel like that might be an idea. I know Dickinson just did that, so maybe looking for statistics to see if the drinking went down, because I know the freshmen, their drinking is completely underground, and I think that's the biggest problem. So inviting them into a community where they're being launched by their peers. I'm biased, I'm in a sorority, and I think that it really helps when I see a friend that's taking too many shots. I will stop them and be like, you need to stop. And I know as a freshman you can have your freshman friend group, and that's all you have. Not everyone, but a lot of people. So this gives you 50 more people that are watching after. So I think maybe looking at Ethan Dickinson, who just started that, maybe looking at statistics to see if the drinking went down, especially for first years, might be the idea to stop.
This is hard. Go ahead.
This is like kind of similar to, not similar, but I don't know how much we've talked about possibly like making the time of open parties earlier.
Yeah.
I know that makes it hard for like the events that start 10 and those were to start 9, but that's like really early, and you wouldn't want that to attract the events on campus, especially for like night events that are held. But I think like one of the biggest problems for first years is that they're gonna stop doing homework when they retire at a certain time anyway. That really just makes it unsafe the amount of time that some of them are drinking before they go out there. It's not always, it's like a lot of times what I've seen, it's not their drinking at the returning houses that's the problem. It's the amount that they drink before they get there, and then that creates problems that occur once they're out with a large
Right. It's kind of both
yeah.
ends, right?
And the food thing is like really great. But like one thing that's really easy to do is making sure that all the fraternities have the easiest access to water as possible. Like obviously if they have a cup, you can find water, but some of them make it a little easier to find water. That's like something DPS can easily assist with. Just making sure.
Just to intersect with everybody, that's where the walkthroughs come in. Every fraternity is supposed to have enough water for however many people they register for, as well as half a serving of whatever they call them salty snacks. It's the lingua, but whatever the snacks are, they're supposed to have at least half a serving for the guests that's going to be there. So.
I think I'm going to turn it back to Taylor.
So in the interest of time, I know you guys have a couple questions, and I'm sure you nosy. And
I'll just stay around
right
after the meeting.
But let's for a round of applause.
And thank you all very much for your interest. It's a tough topic, but I appreciate your candor, and we've all heard what you had to say, so we're going to try to take it back and take what your input into account. So I do appreciate it, and if we want to talk about marijuana, we'll have to come back another time. I'm not unable to.
Alright, so we technically don't have any committees anymore because the new officers got transitioned and we have to appoint more, but if any committee members do have announcements, Mary always does.
Well, I guess the shout out is something we are doing as a college to prevent it. This Saturday, we will be having our serve a food truck again, graciously brought on by you guys. We're going to have pretzels with hot cheese. Again, if I can get anybody who wants to volunteer, it's going to be from 8 to 9. Volunteer handing out stuff. Please come see me. We always love volunteers. You get to work in this sort of food truck, which is pretty cool. Also, spread the word, tell all your friends. We're going to be putting up posters sometime later in the week, but spread the word because the more people who know about it, the better. We want to beat last year's record of a pretzel bite going like every 40 seconds. We're going to try to bring that down to 30 seconds, so then they buy more pretzels the year after that. Let's see. In terms of what happened this weekend, since we're talking about that, we had a vandalism. We had 3 disorderly conducts. A urinating in public. Really pertinent to what we just talked about, we had 6 liquor law violations. And then we also had 2 physical assaults, which were fight-based. So yeah, let's keep the conversation going. Overall, though, numbers for this spring have been down, talking to DPS. So that's like actually kind of commendable that we've done that. Because in the fall, it was done down too. Other than that, thank you guys. I guess this is my last one, so thank you guys for all your help.
And if there are no other committee reports, we can move on to club announcements really quick. Does anybody have anything?
Yeah, Drop the Octave has their concert this Thursday. It's in Klein Theater, 7 o'clock. If you want to come, we appreciate it.
All Isis Club co-hosting a movie showing from the SU called The New Black. It's on Wednesday at 7 in Bowen Auditorium.
Just an update from CAB. Snowcrest is this weekend. Hopefully all of you know that that's happening. And I won't go through all the different events. There's a Facebook group, a Facebook event. It's hopefully getting posted everywhere. Hopefully you can find it. And there's a full list of everything that's going on there. So have fun this weekend. GLC is hosting its leadership certificate showcase on Wednesday in Black Helter. It's going to go from like 4 to 6. All the rooms will be open with students presenting about their projects for the year. So if anyone wants to stop by, there will be drinks and snacks and a lot of great work from all the participants this year.
Class of 2016 will be at the Gazebo tomorrow from 12 to 2, giving out Ritas if you purchase one of our items.
Woo! Yeah. I'll be there.
And just to make an announcement, there is a student senate meeting next week. Do we have any motions? Motion to adjourn.
Hi.